Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1880, and we're with Meredith.
Hey there.
Hey. So, this is one of our in-depth podcasts, so we're going to talk a little bit longer. Hopefully it's interesting the whole way through.
Come at you.
Yes. So, today's topic is the best and worst diets we've tried. Yes. Now, you have been in several podcasts, but for the new listeners, can you give them a fitness background?
Fitness background.
Yeah, like what have you done that involves like a barbell?
Okay, so
everything.
What
What haven't you done?
is it pre-barbell or post-barbell? Well, I always start by like the foundation because like the calves are always the question. So like the foundation is like 24 years of dance.
Yes.
And then when you're dancing 25 to 35 hours a week, depending on how many competitions you have that weekend, you don't have an outlet when you're an adult.
Oh gosh, no.
So after that, when I graduated, I tried, I did yoga. I enjoyed yoga, but I'm bad at the part where you have to sit there, like savasana at the end.
Yes.
Known for just like getting up and walking out because I just can't sit still. I
got stuff to do.
I gotta work on that. I'm well aware I need to work on that. I did yoga. I trained for a marathon.
That's right. Yeah.
Trained for so therefore also did a half marathon.
Yes.
I remember doing quite a few like mud runs. Like I did a 17-mile Tough Mudder once.
That's pretty cool.
That was fun. In a twisted way. I did CrossFit for a long time. I was a coach at a few prominent gyms here in the Carolinas.
Yeah. And then what about the Glassman experience?
Oh, yeah.
That'd be a cool little fun story.
I met Greg Glassman in person, and we chatted, and he helped me achieve a goal I had of my own. So that's on YouTube. It's called Fit to Teach. It's a series that CrossFit headquarters filmed. And then after CrossFit, I did bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I competed in women's physique.
And just happened to like win.
Yeah.
So.
Did pretty well. Did pretty well there. And then, but in between CrossFit and that, I really liked Olympic lifting. I got certified at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. A lot of fun. I kind of miss it. I really enjoy that. That's probably why I said just, anything with a barbell. And then dabbled into powerlifting. So just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, which is exciting and fun.
Yeah.
And you're one of those rare people that when you dabble, you're
try
good.
anything twice.
Yeah, you'll get into it and you're like, well, let's see how this goes. And then you just do really well. Yeah. So it's very cool to see. Now,
thank you.
With that extensive of a background of activities,
yes,
you have eaten in many different ways. So,
yes.
What would be like a sequential season of life of ways that you ate? So, like when you were in high school, you ate for this reason.
Starve myself.
Yes. So we can start with that. Yeah.
Well, like that, and that's also why I said dance, right? So, let's see. So I don't think I was like over fat until like 15, 16 when I was like eating my feelings and didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like grandparents died, parents divorced, moved multiple times.
It's a lot of change,
just a lot to try and navigate. So that's when I did Weight Watchers to start. Which, as a way of eating, was great. For me, as someone that's type A, it was like, if I get this many points a day, that's it. No more, no less. This many, done. Right?
Yes.
So like you just go. Yes, it was the structure I liked, but then I took it like way too far.
Okay, what is too far? Like you were eating humans. Like. I want maximum protein.
No, not quite. I didn't realize at that time, 15, 16, that like you have a base metabolic rate.
Yes.
So if I ate 1,400 calories, I have to exercise to get rid of 1,400 calories.
Yeah, that wonderful math flaw.
So like,
yes. I did the same.
yeah. So that I took it way too far, and I got down to, I remember getting on the scale at my lightest, I was 86 pounds.
That is crazy.
I think half my body weighs 86 pounds at the moment.
I think like my leg weighs 86 pounds.
Yeah. So it was good. It was great. And if I had like guidance to, okay, you look good now, you're healthy, you still have your cycle, your hair isn't falling out yet. Mm-hmm. Like you can stop now.
Yeah, it's like the female triad for dieting is keeping your cycle like at certain body fat percentage.
Yeah. So I just like I remember when I probably looked my best after doing Weight Watchers, and then then you go back to, okay, add 20 points to your diet and maintain. But that's like a big swing. So I just stayed at, I remember the number, I was eating 21 a day.
Oh, wow.
And just about, on average, 2 points was 100 calories.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
So, and I was dancing, 3.5, 4 hours a night.
Yeah.
And then some seasons I was either doing track or lacrosse and then going to practice, going to dance.
Crazy calorie burn.
So, yeah, I don't want to like slam Weight Watchers for that, because I am well aware I took it too far. Mm-hmm. But it was really good because you generally got to eat anything.
Yeah.
You just had to keep it within reason. And there's the portions that like America just doesn't do well with.
Well, true, yeah. Like when you have to portion stuff, you start to go, holy crap, this is what that is? Like, It's so surprising what proper portions actually are. I think, isn't it? Oreos is like famous for being 3 Oreos as a portion size, which is a joke.
2 if it's the kind I eat. The double stuff.
Yeah, it's like 2. You're like, I've just started eating.
I'm just warming up.
Yeah, those were like my just starter
my
Oreos.
warm up bites. my starter Oreos.
Yeah.
So what were we talking? So history of diets.
So you did Weight Watchers.
I did.
And it had pros and cons. We'll come back to some of that in a second.
Yes.
So what was the next thing you did nutritionally?
Okay. That would be. A whole other podcast dedicated to the swing after that, coming back from 86 pounds. But I wouldn't consider that a diet. I was just.
So what did you like? What's a real quick 30-second blurb about that part?
Not knowing how to put muscle, how to gain weight to get my cycle back.
So you wanted to eat again to be healthy, but
I had no idea what to do. I was eating like Entenmann's in my car. Yeah, it was, and then I looked like a water balloon. Yeah, I puffed up really bad.
Yeah,
really badly.
People struggle with that. We can touch on that right now. Is when we consider the best and worst diets. Sometimes the diet itself might be one thing, but what you do after the diet is a tough part. Yeah. So, for example, if a diet is super restrictive and it quote-unquote works.
Oh, my gosh.
But you couldn't continue doing it, you lost your mind and then overate afterwards. Yeah. Sometimes people are like, well, that diet worked because I got lean. And you're like, it didn't work because it wasn't a sustainable way of being lean. Right. So the diet itself actually didn't work because the long-term results weren't able to be sustained.
Right. And I remember after that, I was in high school and... you could tell you're from southern New Jersey or the Philadelphia area if at lunch they give you Philly pretzels with but you could dip it in cheese. It was just lunch, really? But I remember I'm like, okay, I'll have 3 pretzels, and this is also before my celiac diagnosis. So we won't even. And I remember trying to go to a therapist, coming out of that. I think my mom had me go once, and I talked to her once, and she started out by saying, okay, so what did you eat today? This is coming back from just going so far extreme. Yeah. And I told her, I had 3 pretzels at lunch today. And she said, well, that's not good. Or so it was just
judgment from a therapist.
Oh my God. I'm shouldn't you just be happy I'm eating? Which now, we would just be happy you're eating.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good. And I walked out and said, I'm never going back to that person.
Reasonable. That would have been a horrible experience.
Bullshit. Yeah. So, Oh, yeah, I can.
You can say that one.
I can say that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to try not to slip on the other ones.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got to college and it was like I normalized a lot. Like I had just after college and after that was like sophomore year of high school. So then I blew up and then I kind of leveled all through college.
Okay.
Which was good. But then when I graduated, like I was, trying to think about like the season of life. I tried the lemonade cayenne pepper syrup thing.
Okay, for people who aren't familiar, that's a type of fasting?
The master cleanse.
Yeah, master cleanse.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid. Like,
so you drink this concoction rather than eating food.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't look any better doing this. Like, I don't feel any better doing this.
Like, a weight on a scale will go down because a person, like, you remove food that is stored within you.
Yeah.
So you go to the bathroom, you weigh less. You lose water retention, so you weigh less.
Yeah.
So people see a scale go down 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds.
It works.
Yeah.
No,
like,
it doesn't.
Oh, it works. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just water manipulation and waste removal.
Right. I did that. I did vegan.
Oof, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like way before 2023, where there's vegan restaurants like one I just went to that was phenomenal.
Yeah, well, it's true because like nowadays, like there's a gluten finder, like a gluten-free finder app you can do for restaurants.
Yeah,
but like 5-10 years ago, that didn't exist.
No,
especially not in the early 2000s, whenever you and I were going through a lot of these diets.
Right.
Like there would be no way. Somebody's like, you'd be like, "What kind of gluten-free?" They're like, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah.
Like what's gluten? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the trauma.
Yeah.
But yes, I was also diagnosed celiac. I was on Accutane in elementary, middle school.
That's supposed to be so bad for your intestines.
Either elementary or middle school. I forget. I was 6th grade. Yeah, I think I got off of it in 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
So I went on Accutane. My skin looked great.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, like, I would flip a gene on, and all of a sudden, like, the diet I ate growing up at home with, like, pastas and bread at every meal.
Yeah.
I'm also basically not even joking. Couldn't eat it. I was like bent over in pain, going to the hospital. Like it felt like overnight.
That's wild.
And so during that phase of trying to adjust to gluten-free, long time ago, it was like I lived on rice cakes and hard-boiled eggs.
Oh, wow. That's not living.
No. But I was so scared to eat anything because the pain is so bad.
Oh.
I didn't know what to do. I was just scared to eat anything other than rice and eggs.
Yeah.
Because that's safe. And I'm not going to I don't have to go to a hospital today. Like,
pretty good motivation for choosing certain foods. Yeah.
Yeah. But that wasn't like a diet. That was like survival and figuring that out. So I'm not going to count that phase as like a...
Yeah, it wouldn't have been like a best or worst diet, but it was a diet where it was a time period.
Elimination diet. Right.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think. So after college, after like the vegan thing, I did Atkins for a while, but I remember like getting really bad advice on Atkins, and like that didn't work, and I don't like
what was the advice? Do you remember?
Like ice cream was okay because it's high fat.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Where people are like, "Oh, I'm doing low carb so I can eat pounds of bacon," and you're like, "Oh, that's still a lot of calories." Like. You're right. The bacon doesn't have carbs, but it's not gonna be like the staple of your diet.
CNR. Yeah.
It's like, oof.
Yeah. Bad advice. What else? And then like the biggest, the most recent diets where I had some like content knowledge was doing paleo, and the Whole30.
Yeah, you said those actually were pretty good diets for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'd say if I looked back in my diet Rolodex, and I guess some younger listeners, what a Rolodex is? Hi, I'm old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was basically like a little turnstile with cards that had people's names and phone numbers on it.
Oh, this is sad that we're going to have to explain that.
My grandparents had one. And I used to sit and...
I feel like grandparents because we're explaining it.
I know. I would just sit there and like twirl it because I was bored, right?
Yes.
So I would just remember playing.
So useful for adults, toys for kids.
Right. Weight Watchers worked, and it kind of helps you learn portion sizes, understand moderation. Mm-hmm. I got into paleo when I started doing CrossFit, which should be no surprise to anybody.
I can't believe that. Yeah.
Oh, God. Is Kool-Aid on the menu?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was like a messed with your mind in a way. Paleo did.
Fun. Okay, so let's dive into that. How did that mess with your mind?
Because, I feel like we are the anomaly of some people, right? Because if you're going to do something, you're going to do it.
Okay,
I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, like if we decide to do something, it's done.
I'm going to do paleo, so I'm going to do paleo.
Yeah, like I'm drinking Kool-Aid, I'm chugging it.
I'm just doing it. Which, for me, I liked it because I was no longer just doing rice cakes and eggs. It's, all paleo's gluten-free. Sign me up.
It was basically how you had to eat, whether you knew or not.
Exactly.
Yes.
However, you know what also is gluten-free? Rice.
Oh.
You know what you can't eat on paleo? Rice. Yeah. Why?
Asians didn't invent paleo.
I don't know. I don't know why. But I remember it was like, if I wanted gluten-free pasta or I wanted rice, I felt like I was cheating the system. Like I felt guilty. Like my mind went back to oh my gosh, I had 24 points today. Like it was like or in an app when you're like, I went over the recommended calories, or it's just like that.
They're like singular numbers. That's what drives me nuts.
Right.
1,871 calories. Oh no, I ate
I'm
1873.
A failure.
Yeah, I'm a loser.
Yeah. So it was like the head games of, that. Just what I don't even remember was like tequila paleo or something.
Oh, I don't know.
I didn't drink, but I remember like.
If you're drinking tequila on a diet, you're stretching the rules, whatever.
I remember being in a gym, which will remain nameless for the podcast. But they were doing like fireball shots in the gym.
Ew. But
like, or paleo.
Heartburn and lifting. That's great.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, please don't lift heavy and drink
Hopefully
at the
there
same
weren't overhead movements.
I don't even remember.
Why is this barbell spinning? Yeah.
Dude, why are you lifting 2 barbells? Yeah. I don't have one.
Lift the middle one.
Yeah, and I didn't look the way I wanted. I looked okay. It felt good. It felt a little restrictive, right? Like
there are literally
zucchini noodles and meat and avocado. Like I don't. It's good in a sense that it's a good like elimination diet, like in Fit to Teach in the series, because we bring all these people through CrossFit for the first time, and first of all the results coming out of that people had phenomenal changes, which was so neat to see. But even the diet, if they committed to it, they lost so much fat. They didn't like want sugar all the time. They broke their like Diet Coke habit. So it's good from an elimination diet perspective.
Well, the fun part is then thinking, okay, if we dive deep into it, people would say, oh, paleo diet worked for me. Well,
like, did it?
Was it, not that it's bad, so I'm not putting paleo down, but was it paleo that worked, or was it I am now paying attention to the food I eat?
Right.
I'm eating enough healthy foods. I don't need the sugary foods. Like,
and
what is it about the diet that worked? Is it literally that structure, or that they had some structure whatsoever?
I think there's a little bit of that in every diet, because people go gung ho, right? I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick to it. If I don't do this, I'm going to hate myself. Like there's a period of I can stick to anything for however many days.
Yes, there's that initial phase where you'll do whatever it takes to follow the rules.
Right.
Then in every diet, there becomes a cost to following the rules.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mean actual physical cost, but that could actually be some of it. If you're supposed to eat organic everything, that's very expensive.
Yeah.
But the cost could also be, I don't really like these foods.
Yeah.
The cost could be these foods are hard to prepare. The cost is these foods aren't readily available. It's actually kind of very inconvenient for me to eat these foods.
I mean, try and time an avocado right.
Absolutely.
Lose your mind.
You can buy it at the store and come home and it's already ruined. Yes. So 10-minute drive. But that's the one thing to me is when I think of the best and worst diets is the diet that had the least amount of like friction, the least amount of cost. Like in effort, cost in setup. Like if it was the closest matching to how I already lived my life, I would typically be able to sustain that longer.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's interesting. So, let's see. So after paleo, I stopped CrossFit during like a period of my life of like it was a rough go of it. Like I had
the best moments.
There was a bit of a rough patch.
Yes.
And I decided to switch gears and say, I don't like the way I look. I'm gonna walk into a CrossFit gym and it doesn't like feel good in this phase of my life. Mm-hmm. So when I switched, and I started bodybuilding, obviously you look great if you start bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But it was a hurdle to get over the way of eating that was no longer paleo to like feel okay with it.
Yeah. How were they different? Like what was the differences between paleo versus a bodybuilding diet?
The rice, number one.
Yeah.
Like that rice.
A lot of rice usually.
It was a lot of rice. So, that was the biggest thing. Like if I think back and it was, you can remember how you feel in certain moments. It was like discovering that was okay.
It's like somebody told you the tooth fairy wasn't real. It's like a discovery of like rice is bad for you, then you're like, holy crap, I can eat rice?
Yeah.
Like, for all this time I thought it was bad, but it turned out it was actually an okay option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think what else. I was trying to remember. Like my diet was very, like I had oatmeal. I would eat oats.
Yeah.
I would eat protein powder that wasn't like a very specific brand of protein powder.
Yeah,
so that
like
was
paleo's label.
Yeah, the paleo grass-fed coconut.
Yeah.
$50 for 10 ounces, whatever kind of thing. So my wallet enjoyed it.
That's true. Yeah.
Go to Harris Teeter and get it. Can I have a case of chicken, please? How big is your family? It's just me. I am going to eat this. Can I please have my case now? Thank you very much. Yes. But it was little things, and I really enjoyed. I remember having like oats and some like protein powder mixed in and an egg.
Oh, that could be delicious.
That was so good.
Yeah, I've really tried very hard not to overconsume that mixture before.
Yes.
Yes, it's like a no-bake cookie.
Yeah.
But like literally no baked.
I don't think you bake no bakes either.
I don't know how to make no bake cookies.
Is it raining?
I don't know.
It is. It's downpouring.
Squirrel. So.
What were you talking about? Oh yeah. Bodybuilding. What would you call a bodybuilding diet? Because I can say, all right, I did the lemonade crap, vegan, Atkins, paleo, Weight Watchers.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is fun because how I do, you know this now from being like married to
your client,
is like a bodybuilding diet to me is not what everybody else thinks a bodybuilding diet. So a bodybuilding diet for me, like I've had bodybuilders eat anything they wanted to get on stage. Like they
correct. Let's save
pasta.
that for the end because that's
okay,
still blows my mind.
Traditional bodybuilder diet
is there a name for it?
I don't. It's definitely a restrictive form of eating. Because,
6 ingredients for 18 months?
Yes, very restrictive. But I don't know like what like categorical term. It's not obviously not vegan. It's not vegetarian. It's not. So what term does it get? And I think people just refer to it as a bodybuilding diet. Okay. So I think that would be an
contest prep.
Yeah, something like that. Like we'll give it that kind of label.
Yeah.
And that would be like lean proteins. Typically, if you're going to get fats, you're going to choose to do additional fats like oils. And like nuts, you would typically add your fats. So they typically do additional fats, lean meats, and carbs, but that's a whole fun debate over which carbs are supposed to be good.
Yeah.
But a lot of them is rice and vegetables.
Yes.
So,
True.
so that's a typical bodybuilding diet, contest prep style diet.
So, but I did that when my life was also relatively chaotic.
A little shamblish.
Yes. A little bit in shambles.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see. I started when I was doing my sales job, living on my own, trying to, wasn't making a lot of money, but it was so much. I was in the car a lot because it was a sales job.
Okay.
So everything was in a Ziploc bag at the start of the day, and I would just eat out of my purse all day long.
That's fantastic.
I was supposed to do a show in April. I remember I was going to do an April one, and like December, I was looking good, I felt amazing, thought I looked great. Lost my job in January. And then I went, well, now what?
Yeah, crap.
So for me, I didn't really have anyone to fall back on, and I was living alone, and I had no money, and I went, well, I'm going to pause this because I need to find a job first.
Yes.
And I watched my peers at the gym like get on stage in April, and I had found a job within a month.
Nice. Good.
But then I was a contractor, so I worked twice as hard to make up for the month I didn't have income.
That's rough, yeah.
But I loved what I was doing, but I remember watching the people in April get on stage, and I was just like crying because it was so hard. And I said, okay, now I feel like a failure. I put some fat back on because I was just heads down, like I had no money.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? And I said, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do this. Mm-hmm. And I did it again. I did it all over again.
Good for you. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm touching on that because I think you mentioned earlier that it was like, was it the time, the diet, your circumstances?
Yeah, like when a diet
like what made it successful?
Yeah, exactly.
So like,
why?
If I need something to be successful, circumstances aside to a degree, right? Mm-hmm. So, I didn't have furniture in my apartment.
Yes.
I didn't have furniture, and I didn't have TV. Obviously, if I didn't have furniture, so it was a very quiet, empty apartment. Mm-hmm. But I spent money on a gym membership and good food. Yeah,
which is awesome because you're taking care of your physical health.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm going to do this despite my circumstances.
Yeah, I don't need a couch as much as I need to eat healthy and exercise.
Yeah, and it was so much better for my mental health to
That's
do
awesome.
that. Yeah, and then somewhere in between all of this, I just like skipped over the whole 30.
Yeah, so let's touch on that, and then we'll broaden out and talk about like why diets work or don't work.
Yeah.
So, what stage of your life did you do the whole 30?
I quit teaching. I stopped my teaching job. It was before sales. I had just completed a 40-ish day cross-country road trip.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
I had also recovered from a parathyroidectomy, so a surgery to remove a tumor out of my neck.
Okay.
And that tumor in my neck made me, mentally I was not okay, but I knew I wasn't me. So thank God nothing happened. But I was like eating constantly and falling asleep all the time. Like I'd go to bed at 4. But I'd like also eat like a tub of trail mix. Like it was but it was like, there was like my body was not my own is very much how it felt. So coming back from that surgery and then like how much, driving across the country for 40 days, I came back, I was bloated. My ankles were swollen.
Physical state.
I was like, I had been in a habit of like, binge eating, restricting, over exercising. I'd done that for like 15 years at the time.
Oh my. Yeah.
So I was like, I need a change. My life as I know it is completely changing. And I need to feel better. And I do a fair amount of research before I get into something.
Okay.
But it was, I really wanted to break the habit of like the binge eating, restricting over, like
Okay.
that's what I wanted to focus on.
Yeah.
And the Whole30 was like 3 meals a day. If you're going to have, and it was relatively paleo. I can't like speak to so many of the details. I felt like I was a little more restrictive than paleo, but I don't know. I don't really remember. But I remember having breakfast and then being hungry a little bit after, and they're like, you can't eat until lunch, so make a clean lunch. Okay, so I did that. Add a little more food to lunch if you were hungry from breakfast, and then wait for dinner. And so I did the whole 60. I did it back to back.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And from that diet or way of eating, you know, because we've talked about the term nutrition versus diet a lot, but from that way of eating, I have never binged ate after that.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Never. There was a while where I was like celebrating. It was like I had my like chip, right? And it was like 1 year of not binge eating and 2 years of not binge eating. And now I just like forget that was once my life, but I do remember.
That's neat. Yeah, that's a good place to have transitioned to.
Yeah. So the Whole30 helped with that. I don't know if it was as much of the diet as it was like the just focus and intention of I'm not going to I'm going to just do this thing and it's going to reset my mindset and my habits.
So you're very driven to want that result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which like now people would call that intermittent fasting because you don't eat between dinner and breakfast. Yeah, how novel. What an amazing, ingenious idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to try.
You're supposed to eat and eat when you're not. Don't eat.
Yeah. Eat when you're hungry. Don't eat when you're not hungry.
Yes.
Done.
And but it is challenging in the sense to where learning what is hunger. Like,
yeah.
Bored, or
we talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about that. Like, not in the podcast, but
just
in our house.
Yeah. Yeah. So you and I both have lost our sense of
sense of hunger.
Hunger. Yeah. From
just eat to
crazy
eat.
diets in the past.
Yeah. Just eat to eat. You know, I'm gonna. Well, it's noon. I guess I should eat now, so I'm going to.
Yeah, we usually get sick and then we're like, oh crap, I haven't eaten.
But true. Even before that, it was just zero sense of hunger, which is so weird. Mm-hmm. Like I wasn't hungry, but then I also wasn't full.
That's an interesting, to have both.
So I couldn't regulate what was happening.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason of I need to figure this shit out. I need to just regulate it. Yeah. And that the Whole30 helped with that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when we think through, a lot of people will have a similar story in the sense that they've probably tried several diets. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they went well, sometimes it didn't go well. Sometimes it was because of the diet, sometimes it was something outside of the diet.
Yeah.
You know, they went through a stage of life and it just didn't work. So when we think about the best and worst diets, given everything you've gone through, when you would select, okay, let's say for example, in 6 months, you're like, okay, I got a cruise coming up or a beach vacation. I want to look a little leaner. I'm not necessarily trying to lose 50 pounds. I'm not trying for performance. I just want to feel healthier and look a little leaner in my body. What would be some structures that you would look for in a diet, given everything you've gone through, what you think works, doesn't work? Let's say it was like a season of life where you're like, this is going to be a normal season for me, which means I might feel a little overwhelmed with work. Maybe I even have to travel for a week of work. Maybe I'm having to move. Like, there's going to be some things that happen.
Yeah.
But I want a diet that I believe I can still, in 6 months, feel like I look better. What would you look for? Like, what foods would you pick? What timing would you pick?
Is this pre-Rob or post-Rob? Because my mindset has completely changed.
Talk about that then. Like, answer that. Like, talk about the mindset change.
The fact that I can eat a bagel with butter on it throws me for a loop to this day. Yeah, I'm okay with it, but I'm like deep down like not okay with it.
Like this doesn't feel right.
This feels dirty.
Yes.
This feels really dirty. So for example,
okay.
Yeah. I would say, okay, I need to whittle down my carbs, increase my protein. I already drink water like by the gallon every day.
Yeah, all you drink is water all day.
I would make sure I'm eating consistently, like wake up and eat breakfast when you can, get that running, eat when you're hungry for lunch, or eat like consistently.
Yeah,
It's
you'd have
number
like
one.
a breakfast, you'd have a lunch, you'd have a dinner, you'd have some consistent general times you would eat.
Yeah, I would eat consistent time frames. I would have larger meals in the morning, smaller meals in the evening, make sure I hit my protein intake, make sure I'm doing movement. Like I would make sure I'm getting at least 20 minutes of weight-bearing activity a day.
Yeah.
Keep my muscles damaged.
And you'd probably avoid some sugars, like you would know to avoid some sugars.
Yeah, well,
I
I also naturally now just don't
True.
do that. So that's tough to...
And you said you bring down carbs.
Right.
Typically.
Yes.
Okay. So that is where most people think to start is, I want to eat less of the things I know I probably shouldn't be eating. So most people start diets with food choice decisions.
Yes.
Yes. Now, post-Rob, is there any difference to how you would approach a diet?
Well, that was post-Rob.
Okay, so this is the fun part.
What?
Is
because it's consistent, it's larger to smaller, it's focused on the protein, you can still have carbs, make sure you're getting 20 minutes of weight-bearing exercise. Like, that's post-Rob. Pre-Rob? Ugh. Like, try to, like, not eat carbs at all.
Yeah.
Or, like, very little, very, very little carbs. I would do... like, the hair on the back of my neck is standing up if I say I were to do, like, an hour of cardio a day.
Yeah.
And, like, 30 minutes of, weights before an hour of cardio. Like, literally the hair is standing up on the back of my neck thinking about it. But, so I would restrict and over-exercise.
Yeah, so pre-Rob, it would be overly restrict food and over-exercise, but mostly cardio-based. Pre-Rob.
Yes.
Yes?
It's hard to...
slow yes.
It's really hard to think back to that, right? Because I'm trying to remember, like, what I did. And I think I did do that because...
I remember morning step mill photos whenever you and I were dating.
Yeah.
You would go do, like, the step mill at, like, 5 in the morning and send me a photo of, like, an empty gym.
I did do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since we've met, I don't know if you've touched the step mill.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it can be helpful, but it's not necessary.
Oh, I did. Yeah, because I'd walk down the street from the gym and go do the step mill.
Yeah.
Yeah. My cardio gym membership. Mm-hmm. And then that stopped.
Yes.
Because you don't need to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say that largely focus on cardio.
Okay.
But I would default to, like, my marathon training.
Yes, and that is what most people do is, like, so, like, pre-Rob.
Yeah.
Is most people food restrict and then they do a lot of cardio.
Yeah, I'm also having a hard time because I'm going, what's a vacation? Like,
That's true, yes.
If you're preparing for a vacation, what do you do?
Yeah. Let's say you're going to have a half a day off in 6 months. And you're like,
I might really put on a bathing suit.
I sleep for 2 extra hours. So, yeah. Yeah. I'm going to sleep in my bikini. But, so that's true, is if somebody's not used to vacations. But the idea is typically when people are thinking of, they want a successful diet.
Right.
They tend to food restrict, which would be they cut out, like, specific foods.
Right.
So maybe somebody cuts out carbs. Maybe another person, they know they like carbs, so they cut out fats.
Right.
But they typically pick a food and say, I will not eat this food anymore.
Because by default, if this is normally in my diet, if I don't eat it, I'm eating less. That's what happens.
Yes, yeah. So that's interesting in the sense where people will choose foods to avoid, and then they usually increase activity, but it's cardio. Almost everyone thinks...
All the time cardio. And I'm going to get coffee.
Okay, so I'll just keep talking to myself.
Yeah, but, I mean, coffee was always in the diet.
There you go, yes. But yeah, that's typically what people do is when they want to start a diet, they're going to do food restriction and extra cardio. And then one of the things I wanted to get across in this podcast was the diets that go well versus the diets that don't go well. The diets that go well, we have to first decide on defining what is a successful diet. Is a successful diet, I've reached my weight change goal by the timeline, period. Yeah. Or I reached my weight change goal by the timeline, and I was able to sustain that. So, is a successful diet, I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. Done. That's successful. Or, I don't know if it's successful yet until I know if I can sustain the 30 pounds that I lost. So, if I lose 30 pounds in 30 days, but gain 30 pounds back in the next 30, it wasn't a successful diet. My answer is no.
That is not successful.
No, because the idea of a diet is to create a change that is permanent.
Correct.
Most people want a permanent change. Now, when I work with wrestlers or people like doing weight class sports, I've even done challenges where I lost 50 pounds in 10 weeks or less.
Yeah, we haven't talked about you at all.
That's okay. I like hearing about you. So, in those moments, you are not dieting to sustain the change.
Right.
So that's one thing in its entirety, is just to know the difference of, for the listener, if you're like, okay, I want a successful diet, how are you going to define successful? Are you defining it as I want to sustain the change, or I'm just doing a temporary change for something? If it's a sustainable change, then we have to know that that's the definition, because then how we decide to diet is very different.
Right.
So when I want a diet to lose weight and not care if I keep it off, so the 50 pounds in 10 weeks or less, I didn't choose anything that was sustainable.
Right.
I didn't care if it was sustainable because I wasn't trying to sustain the result.
True.
So I chose whatever restricted my calories in the most strict and controllable way. Whatever made it the easiest to bring my calories down. And the difference, though, is if I want to sustain the change, I have to choose a way to eat that now becomes the way I eat for the rest of my life.
Right.
Huge difference.
Very different.
So, when people are thinking of what is a successful diet, in my mind, what I would encourage them is, if I want to sustain the change, I want to decide on a diet structure that is a sustainable way of eating. If you looked at your past diets, given your individual circumstances, we could say that paleo was a way in which it could be sustainable for you since you couldn't eat gluten anyhow.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Now, if there was a diet structure that they said was the newest craze, 100% is going to work, but you can only eat gluten, you're screwed.
Right.
Yeah. Like, what are you going to do? Right?
Yeah.
So you would pick what's based on your individual need. So somebody else picks vegetarian or vegan.
Right.
Works great for them. I've helped people do bodybuilding shows.
Right,
that were vegans and vegetarians.
Yeah.
So you can do any goal you want. Now for them, why does it work for them in that model, but yet paleo can work for someone else, Whole30 can work for someone else?
Yeah, and that's it's it's a struggle.
Oh yes.
Like,
she's talking with her hands, people. We're in trouble. Yeah, the Italian is coming out.
Don't speak Italian to goats.
Yes.
What does that mean? Listening. One of the things that feels like ice picks in my ears.
Oh no.
Is listening to people give diet advice with no foundation of the other person's circumstance.
Yes.
Their health, their blood work, like, just, I can't, like, it just.
Yeah, like, this worked for me, so therefore I'm going to tell everyone else that they need to do the same thing. And it's like,
so CrossFit.
Yeah.
Or pickleball.
Yeah,
just.
Yeah. But that's the idea, is if somebody, like, say for example, somebody went vegan, and they're like, changed my life. Oh, let's say the Whole30. That's a good example, because we talked about it. The Whole30 changed your binging and like
restricting and everything. Yeah, absolutely.
So you can come out of that and be like, oh my gosh, like 100%. I loved Whole30 so much I did 60 days of it, not 30 days.
Yeah.
And I'm so fired up, so excited for the change it made in my life. I want to tell everyone about it.
Yeah.
The challenge is not everyone is going to respond to the same diet in the same way.
Correct.
So, and that's the point that what I would encourage listeners to realize is there are a lot of diets that can work. Mm-hmm. And when I say work, I mean they will make a change and you'll be able to sustain that change. But the reason why they work is because they are diet structures that fit that person's life.
Correct.
In the closest way possible to how they already live. So that way it's a sustainable change.
Right. And having dabbled in all of these and had such an extensive physical fitness background.
Yes, in like a whole bunch of disciplines.
Tried nearly everything.
Yeah.
And tried nearly every diet. My mindset now and the way I can, and I would attribute a lot of it to having done a couple bodybuilding competitions.
Okay, cool.
I think it's almost like the diets I did built on each other.
Oh.
So Weight Watchers showed me you can eat everything and lose fat and still look really good.
Yes.
Like the moderation principle still worked. Mm-hmm. But I still was like binging, right? Yes. You could still binge. I would still like...
You'd save all your points for the last...
Save all your points and just go to town on some combos, right?
Yes, exactly.
So then the Whole30 was you can moderate what you're eating and like break the habit of binging. So I learned I could eat everything. Then I learned to stop binging. Then I learned to eat for aesthetics.
Yeah.
And I learned you can still have a cycle and lose fat and not eat a ton of food. Like so it really, everything has built on itself to where now it's interesting to see that, approaching 40 to say all these life lessons, I can now understand how much am I hungry for intuitively in the morning?
There you go. Yeah.
How much am I hungry for at lunch in the afternoon? How much am I hungry for at dinner? I'm going to work out tomorrow morning. What do I need to do today?
Yeah.
I haven't worked out in 3 weeks. How do I adjust my dinner now? Mm-hmm. I am hungry for a snack now. What is the best option considering how I've been eating this week, what my goals are tomorrow? It's just, It's so much more instinctive. Like even now at school, they feed us 3 squares a day. I mean, and like good food.
Is great. Yeah.
But then also you get a 15-minute break like every 90 minutes or so. But then every time you go out for a break, there's food.
That's wild.
Like you might as well be on a cruise ship with how much food, thankfully, they give us. Because if you're hangry and you can't focus, like it's just not going to happen.
Very hard.
But I think there's a lot of it's there. I'm going to eat it. It's there. I'm going to get my money's worth. Mm-hmm. Where in my mind, I'm like I'm sitting in class all day. My brain's using a little extra glucose, but I need to make sure I'm getting my protein content in because there's not too much protein at every meal. But I think there's a I don't know. Is it just in our culture that if the food's there, I'm going to eat it?
I mean, our culture is the only culture I've lived in. Mm-hmm. So I don't know to speak for other people's cultures, but you're right that it's common. Like as Americans, we can speak for America.
Yeah.
It is common in America to not like waste food,
right?
And like part of it are the generation above us. They were taught by people who went through the Great Depression.
Clean your plate.
The Great Depression, you had to struggle for every morsel of food you could get, so you had to eat it. Then those people taught the generation that taught us the same thing. So the Clean Your Plate Club, so our generation might be starting to come out of that a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's not uncommon for people to think, well, if the food's available, number one, I'm going to eat it because I should, so it doesn't go to waste. Number two, I'm going to eat it because I just want to. Like some people just like the taste of food, and it tastes good, and they want something comforting.
Yeah,
you know? So there's a lot of reasons why people will overeat.
Yeah.
And whenever food is easily accessible, that does become quite a problem for a lot of people.
And at the same time, though, so this is interesting. So I just, if I'm not hungry, I don't eat. Unless it's, but I can self-regulate to say, I need to for my metabolism.
Yes. So you're able to eat when you're supposed to eat and not eat when you're not supposed to eat, regardless of the food being available.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's having gone through all of these experiences to be able to recognize that. Right? So I remember prepping for a show and hearing people at work say they were hungry, and I was ready to like deck them. Because I'm like, you don't know what hungry is. Like, when you wake up at 2 a.m. crying because you're so hungry that you'd go cook a head of cabbage and a wok, like, then talk to me.
I'm licking the like rice cake wrapper. Which is probably as nutritious as the rice cake itself.
I don't know, but at the flip side, I talk to people at school and they're like, "Wow, how am I losing weight with all of this food?" And I was like, "I love this question because you're eating consistently."
Yes.
Finally eating consistently. There's a little bit of balance to the food you're eating. Works wonders.
Yeah.
Right? So, where someone could go into that situation and feel like they're gaining weight, someone else can go in and feel like they're losing weight, other people can go in and maintain. It all is like, what's your experience been?
Like, what have you done until you got here?
Right.
And then also food choices.
Yeah.
You know, like somebody can go out and break and choose something like a slice of cheesecake that has 400 calories.
Yeah.
Another person might be
There's an
chit-chatting
apple.
with somebody and has an apple. Yeah. And you're looking at like 60 calories. You know, so food choices change the caloric content.
Yeah.
And then multiply that over how many times you eat in a day.
Right.
You can have several hundreds of calories, if not 1,000 or more.
Yeah.
Swing of caloric difference between two people, even if they ate the same number of meals per day.
True.
They just had different food choices.
Exactly.
Yeah. So whenever I help people with nutrition, the big components we look for is we want consistency of timing and calorie consistency.
Right.
And for most people, if you can become more consistent with calories than they've been, and you can be more consistent with timing than they've been, it doesn't matter what foods they eat, they'll lose body fat.
Yeah.
And that's why I can have clients that will eat potatoes, pasta, and rice, or they want bacon. Fine, you can have bacon. Like, you can have bagels for breakfast.
Oh my God, bagels, right? Like 2 breakfast sandwiches.
Yeah.
That we make at home.
Yeah, because what bagel is okay, this is energy nutrients. So it's something my body is going to break down for energy.
Right.
How much do I really need right now? That's all. Whether it's a bagel, whether it's potatoes, whether it's bacon, whether it's whatever, it's like, okay, how much energy is this food giving me, and how much do I need right now? If I know, for example, I need 10 units of energy right now, I'll just eat something that gives me 10 units of energy now that I like, that gives me a sustainable release of energy if I need it sustained or instant. So am I eating before workout or between, like, on the computer for 4 hours?
Yeah.
So, like, the food choices matter to the purpose, but there's a lot of foods that fit that purpose.
Yeah.
So if I want something to digest within the next hour or two because I'm about to go work out, there's a lot of carbohydrates that digest within an hour or two.
Yeah.
A lot. So it can be white bagel, white bread, it can be white rice, it can be potatoes. So that's the fun part.
And even like you and I going out to like run errands and we take stock, we pause, and it's how long do we think we're going to be gone? What did we just eat? What do we need to bring? How are we going to feel 2 hours from now based on what we ate? Like, it's just, it has become so intuitive.
Yeah.
Which is great. However, I can still like work all day and forget to eat, which I'm working on.
Yes, I have to like help you eat.
Yeah.
Yes. Now that's funny because I have to do the same for myself.
Right.
We both are so driven to get stuff done that we are able to just work through rather than eating. However, we both now understand, okay, if I do that, I'm not going to feel my best. I'm not going to look my best, and that's going to compound over time. And I'm going to be further and further from the life that I want, the body that I want, the feelings that I want. So it's better for me to stop for 10 minutes. Yeah. This is why I buy microwavable rice rather than cooking it myself.
Right.
Because I want to eat now. Like if I'm going to eat, I want to eat fast.
And we do an eat to live, not live to eat.
There you go.
I mean, but with your food allergies and my food allergies, we don't go out to eat because it's either an anxiety attack or like...
Or we get sick.
Yeah, we get sick, or it's like I'm spending money to risk getting sick. Like I just...
Yeah. And then when we go out to eat, like we enjoy it for the experience that it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people can think of too is, like I have clients all the time that'll tell me like, hey, if I'm like maybe a couple is like going on a Friday night date and they're like, we want to go out. We've been in the house. We've been going crazy work. Before we started trying to eat healthy, we used to go out to eat. We like that routine. What can we do?
Yeah.
So I just help them with food choices. Yeah. I'm like, you can still go out to eat if you can afford it, and like it's something you enjoy. We can keep that. We just might need to eat these foods because they're more calorie controlled than these foods.
Yeah.
Like a lean meat and some vegetables is going to go a lot better than steak and margarita.
Yeah. There was a I don't know if the book was called Eat This, Not That, but I remember that being on every page of the book. And I bought it in high school.
Oh, okay.
I was always into, science, math, fitness, nutrition. Like, I just loved learning all of that, even if I didn't know how to apply it. I was so young. Right. And I remember seeing, like, the volume differential in the food, like, photos.
Oh, okay, yes.
And that was... when you're young and you see it, that was such an eye-opening kind of experience where it's like, oh, wow, I can eat a whole lot of volume in this way versus...
Well, that's actually a fun topic. Like when I work with people who are coming out of eating disorders...
which is both of us, too.
Yeah, true. They have a hard time eating enough food because their stomach is shrunk and they're just not used to a certain volume.
Yeah.
So then you have to pick more nutriently dense food so they don't eat as much volume.
Right.
But when you have somebody who's coming out of overeating, like chronic overeating due to emotional concerns,
volume.
They are going to be used to super high volume.
Absolutely, good point.
So you're like, okay, I've got to bring their calories down, but I can't let them eat something that's highly nutriently dense because they're going to feel like there's not enough food.
Right, and they're
so
going
you
to
have to eat something that's not nutriently dense.
Right.
So nutrient density is going to be appropriate for one individual and another individual in completely different ways.
Right, and why you need to know someone's history before you say, oh, do this.
Oh, absolutely. I hate advice like that. And you've seen me get fired up and mad. And
our ears bleed. Like it's just, it's such a non-intellectual response to just do this.
Yeah, I get mad at it because if you give someone advice that doesn't fit them, they're going to then struggle to follow it, and they're going to feel bad about themselves. Yeah. But that advice actually wasn't correct, and it wouldn't even be healthy for them to do.
Correct.
So you're setting them up to feel bad about themselves for something that they shouldn't even have to feel bad about themselves for. It's like, why would you do that? And I know people mean well. They don't know what they don't know.
Absolutely. This is a good point.
I would love to just raise awareness that there's a lot that people don't know if this isn't what you do. I'm not going to give somebody plumbing advice. I don't know anything about plumbing. Just because I fixed the toilet once doesn't mean I know how to fix everyone's toilet.
Yeah.
Even if I fixed a car, maybe there was a problem with my car that I was able to fix, but it's not the problem you have with your car. My advice isn't going to fix your car.
Right.
So it's interesting how I think people understand certain professions. You don't give mechanic advice if you're not a mechanic. You don't give plumbing advice if you're not a plumber. You don't give nutrition advice if you're not a nutritionist. I'm
not going to tell a surgeon to... Actually, you should use a 3-O-Vicryl for that. And they're like, no. I'm not. But everybody, somehow, everyone thinks they're a nutrition expert.
It is wild. I know I'm in it, so I could be biased in certain ways, but it's maybe the most profession I think that everybody else thinks they already know. And it's wild. Absolutely wild.
Why is that, though? I mean, I know we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole. This is all about, like, diets.
Like, everybody interacts with food. Not everybody interacts with plumbing. Not everybody interacts with fixing a car. Everyone every day has to eat. Everyone, every day, based on how they eat, has a good or a bad experience.
Right.
The more good experiences they have, they believe that what they're doing is good.
Right.
So therefore, they're interacting with it every day. They've had all of these collective experiences.
Yeah.
And they're like, I now know something. The downside is they don't know what the full amount to know is.
Yeah.
So they might know a lot of what they believe is there to know. So they know 10%, but they only know that there's 10% to know. Therefore, they know 100%. So they're genius.
Right.
So they're like, I want to give advice because I know everything. It's
Yeah.
like, well, you know everything of the 10% that you know, but you don't know that there's 90 other percent.
They don't know that we know they know we know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason why is everyone interacts with food.
Yeah.
Everyone touches that each day.
True.
Not everybody does the other professions every day.
This is true.
You know. So due to exposure and time in the material,
Yeah.
people are going to form opinions and have what they would believe is knowledge.
Right.
When it's actually opinions.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
a huge difference in this too.
Yeah.
But they're going to have those experiences.
Yeah.
And they're going to want to help somebody. People are fixers. They want to help people they love. They want to feel more useful, just to make themselves feel better. So they're going to want to offer advice, whether it's to somebody they love or they just like, I want to feel better about myself.
I feel like people are looking for it to be difficult.
Oh, there's a great quote that I'll have to look for in my phone. I just
go ahead and look that up. Because
I did a podcast where I touched on this quote, and it was a quote by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, it's attributed to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I joked in the podcast that I did not hear Arnold say it, so I don't really know if it's true. But the quote is, people make fitness complicated. So this is fitness-based, but I'm going to bring it back to nutrition in a second. People make fitness complicated because then you have to pay them to decode it. The truth is doing something every day matters more than any debate about training. So the truth...
Oh my God, yes. That's applicable to nutrition 100%.
The more complicated I make it, the more you have to pay me to solve it for you.
Right.
This is why I would hope that anyone listening to my podcast says, he makes it really simple. And I've had people tell me that verbatim, like in emails and in person, is you make nutrition simple. Because I don't want you to have to pay me for it. Like, I'm not doing it to try to get money out of people. I'm doing it because it has made such an enormous difference in my life, the people I love's life, and the people I've talked to and helped. It has absolutely made people live the life they wanted. It allowed them to do that.
Absolutely.
And why would I not share it with people?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to see now, like, how many diet books have been published.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like how many total? But that's
okay.
Good.
How many diet books are sold each year? According to Nielsen Bookscan, about 5 million diet books are sold in the U.S. alone every year. Around half of the entire total health and fitness category in 2050. Oh my God.
Yeah, so 5 million books are bought on nutrition. So how do I make my book
just
different than the other millions of books, right? What do you find out?
Oh my God. Apparently, or approximately 45 million Americans diet each year, and the diet industry is worth $72.6 billion.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which
Oh, yeah.
It's so simple. It's so simple.
Well, that's the challenge. Is
people just evidence that people just want it to be complicated and fancy.
Well, that's the thing. The people who sell it want it to be complicated. The truth of dieting itself.
I can't stop it. This is
The truth of dieting itself is that why diets work or don't work is simple. The challenge is, how do you apply the rules to your life?
Right.
So if I know I'm supposed to eat between 2,000 to 2,400 calories a day.
Yeah.
And I believe that's appropriate for the window. I know my protein should be maybe 160 grams. How do I do that? When I have a busy job at work, when I have family to take care of, when I have extra hobbies, when I have other interests, when I have a food issue, like gluten sensitivity.
Yeah.
Like the how to do it is the complicated part, and that's why I get hired. That's why I have a job.
Yeah.
I don't have a job to decode it. Yes. I have a job to teach people how to apply it.
Yes.
There's a difference. True. So nutrition itself, I feel like it's very simple. Mm-hmm. Now, this is what I do all the time, so hopefully it would come simple to me. But it's not complicated to understand if I eat an appropriate amount of calories at a consistent rate, and sufficient enough protein so my body can heal and repair itself, I'm going to feel good and I'm going to look pretty good. That's relatively simple. I think that's pretty agreed upon right there.
Yeah.
That's pretty true. But the challenge is, and this is where everyone struggles, is how do I apply it? So when we talk about diets, like if we're looking at paleo versus Whole30 versus vegan versus vegetarian, those are different ways to apply the same concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's finding the ways to apply it that fit you.
Exactly. And that's kind of, you said that in a more eloquent way than me saying, like, every single one is, like, built on itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very good point as well. Is like part of what makes me okay, or at least decent, or somewhat sufficient in what I do, is
amazing.
I've tried literally everything. You name a diet, and I've done it.
Between the two of us, I think we've done all of them.
Yes. So, like, what's the benefit of that is you learn what does or doesn't work in your experience. Mm-hmm. Now, combine that with I've worked with over 3,000 people. I stopped counting at 3,000 because it's high enough.
Yeah.
I've worked with over 3,000 people. I have 3,000 people's, like, I know their first names. I know everything they did with nutrition. I have all their information saved in my computer.
Yeah.
So I have over 3,000 people's diets I've ever written on my computer. So I've learned from my experience, which is a lot, but nothing compared to 3,000 people.
Yeah.
So I have 3,001 people's knowledge. So knowing that width of information, that breadth of information, is then when somebody new comes to me and they say, I have this problem, I'm like, oh, no worries. Mm-hmm. I know so-and-so dealt with that, and another so-and-so, and actually probably 12 or 20 or 30 or 100 so-and-sos.
Yeah. And
the common thread of 100 people was this. Let's start there.
Right.
And that's what most people need. That's what people, if they're going to pay for something, what they should be paying for is not to decode it, is to apply it. Mm-hmm. That's where the challenge is what people struggle with is the application of nutrition.
Absolutely, because it can be overwhelming.
Yes. It's a struggle. It's challenging. If you wake up and you have to be out the door in 10 minutes, what do you eat in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they eat nothing because 10 minutes feels overwhelming and stressed, and I can't make bacon and eggs in 10 minutes. Like, well, that's not your only choice. Mm-hmm. But if they only think they're allowed to eat oatmeal, for example, well, I can't make oatmeal in 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So they skip breakfast. It's like, there are so many other options that would accomplish what oatmeal accomplishes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be oatmeal.
And there's a lot of options in general. If you want it to happen, it can, within reason. Mm-hmm. We've gone through some very, very tough seasons.
Yeah.
And still managed to change a whole lot and get into a wedding gown, right? Yeah. Still managed to get look okay on a honeymoon with everything else. It's interesting. It's just
a good example is 2020, like you mentioned the wedding gown. So do you remember the size that they fitted you in?
That's true, because we do have some new listener people.
Little story, yeah.
Well, let me just say, it's a good thing I am relatively unshakable to a degree.
You're very
yes.
Try not to swear like
can't say
hardcore.
It. Tough. Yeah, tough cookie.
Yes, there you go.
So, okay. We walked into. So, fun fact: Rob was with me when I was wedding gown shopping. Yeah, so he saw.
Amazing.
Yeah, he saw my wedding gown choices, and I wanted to know what he liked and what he thought about them, and which is, I don't know that anyone ever does that, but we're unconventional to a degree.
Yeah, and we were both like, this is a fun experience. Well,
I knew the exact gown I wanted, and I found where it was. We went. I tried it on. I tried on a size 10, and Rob and I were talking, and he does what he does. Mm-hmm. I've done a myriad of different athletic events and diets, and I know what I'm capable of and can do, and I know if I have this many weeks and this happening in my life, I know to do that. Kind of like your experience with, all of your diet, your nutrition clients.
Oh, yeah.
I can pull on my experiences to have an idea.
Absolutely.
And I told them to order a size 4.
Yeah.
And they staunchly opposed.
They even made you sign an agreement.
They made me sign a waiver.
Yeah.
Whereas basically, like, you're so fat right now. We don't think this is gonna happen, and we need you to sign an agreement that we advised you otherwise.
Yeah, they were like, we can go to maybe an 8 or even maybe a 6, but they were like, we don't even recommend a 6. We're like, just order us a 4.
Like, can you just give me the waiver? But I remember walking out that day going, well, hot damn.
Yeah.
Like, good thing I went through that bodybuilding experience where you like feel like a fat, you know what, standing in a room with fluorescent lights and there's 20 mirrors around you.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, it's a data point. It's just a data point. Everything becomes data. At a point, everything becomes data.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they had me sign a freaking waiver.
Mm-hmm. So we started 2020. I think that was in like March.
No, we chose my gown in February.
Yeah, because they were talking about.
I lost my job in March.
This virus thing.
There's weird thing
in Europe,
in China that like the factories might shut down. Order it now.
Yeah,
okay.
So it was in February. And then we had they told us size 10 in February. Then we went back and got
that's right.
dress.
We committed to a size 4. I lost my job in March.
Well, that's what I want to touch on.
Yeah.
So what I want to touch on is that even in the most chaotic year of everyone's life, I think everyone can relate to 2020 being chaos.
Yeah.
Is you can still make progress.
Yeah. I walked in.
If you learn how to apply the information.
The gown came in. I walked in. I tried on the 4, and they had to take it in.
Yes. So, bam.
And they were shocked. Also, didn't make me feel great, but they were shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got from a 10 to a 4, and they had to take it in. Mm-hmm. And that was a span of maybe like 6 months, 7 months. When did we pick up the dress? There was a few things that happened that year. So
8 months.
I don't quite remember. Yes.
8 months.
Okay, so 8 months. So 8 months, you went from 10 to a 4, even with all of what 2020 was.
Lost my job.
Loss,
your dad's cancer, my mom's stroke, moving my mom.
We had to change our whole wedding venues and plans. And
the reception is canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was chaos. But super fun tangent because it's the application of nutrition.
Right.
That 100% is legitimately challenging. 100% legitimately challenging. So the fact that nutrition feels complicated to people makes me sad because nutrition is simple.
I agree.
The application is challenging.
I agree.
And people don't teach that that's different because you don't make money if that's different.
Correct.
And that's the part that we were talking about, that Arnold Schwarzenegger quote is nutrition can be so complicated because people want to make it complicated because then you have to pay them.
Right.
You have to pay them for their system. You have to pay them for this thing.
Right.
And that's where I feel bad for everyone because what's lost in that mess is that it's actually much more simple.
Right.
Is be consistent with your calorie intake, even within a range. Like you can be a 400 calorie swing every day and it's close enough. And then eat consistently. If you're going to have breakfast, try to have breakfast most days. If you're going to have a lunch, try to have lunch most days. If you're going to have dinner, try to have dinner most days.
Yeah. It's
literally just that. And then the application is unique to each individual.
Consistency.
That's right. It's just most people are not consistent. People are overweight because they're inconsistently eating, not that they're overeating.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And really, you just want to look at like the slope of the line. Like you're gonna have a swing and dip and go up and down. But as long as over time it's a trend in a direction, you're doing great.
Yes, and the variances, the smaller and smaller and smaller you make the variances,
right,
the leaner the person will get. Yeah. So we were talking about like when I do bodybuilding shows with people, like how I get my clients ready for stage and they can eat whatever they want. I don't care.
Yeah, it's wild.
The reason why is because we just narrow the variance over time.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe when we first start, they could have 40 foods, 400 calorie swing. Times can be an hour off each meal. Mm-hmm. Then as we get closer, we're like, okay, rather than an hour variable, let's try to get it down to 30 minutes. Rather than a 400 calorie swing, let's go to a 200 calorie swing.
Right. Yeah.
So we just start narrowing the variance, and the smaller and smaller variance you get to where you can get the meals as pinpointed as possible, get the calories as pinpointed as possible. People get down to like 5-6% body fat, and that's how people get pro cards.
Yeah.
And every one of my clients who's gotten a pro card has eaten a different food.
Yeah.
I've never had a diet for any of my clients that they had to eat the same as anyone else.
That is true.
No, the foods have never been identical
Yeah.
between any clients.
Yeah. And that's a lot of times where people struggle too is, tell me exactly what to eat.
Oh, I hate that question.
I know.
I understand it. I understand the question, but I hate it because it's not long-term successful.
Right.
It's short-term successful, and then we stretch it out.
Yeah.
So I'll go, okay, and then I write them 2 or 3 options per meal. So 2 or 3 options for breakfast, 2 or 3 options for lunch, 2 or 3 options for dinner. And I'll say, hey, both of these options are 600 calories, like 600, 700 calories, and maybe, 40 grams of protein.
Yeah.
So when you get tired of these 2 options,
switch.
Eat anything that's 600 to 700 calories and 40 grams of protein. And then I'll get a question like, is this okay? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, well, can I have potatoes? Yes. And I'm like, yay. We're finally getting some width of options because that improves sustainability.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap this up, I think we touched on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
If somebody was listening to this and they see the title as the best and worst diets we've tried, then they think, okay, I want to listen to hear what's the best diet. So if they listen to this, thinking they're going to come out of it with,
I'm going to do this.
The best diet. Do you have a 30-second, 1-minute piece of advice or a parting piece of advice on if somebody's saying, okay, Meredith, what is the best diet?
It depends.
That's a perfect answer in my opinion. Why does it depend?
It depends because it depends on where are you starting, what do you struggle with, what are you allergic to, what has worked for you in the past, what has failed in the past, what have you already tried, what are your triggers, yes. There's so much.
Yes.
So is it a best diet because you need to regulate your food consumption? Do you need to eat more? Do you need to eat less? Do you need to stop binging? Do you need to overcome a food addiction? What does your blood say? Is it the diet? Is it your hormones? It depends on so much.
Yes.
So how do I answer that?
If you aced it.
I got an A.
Yes. I'm not the one to be giving the grades.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm so excited that that's how you answered it is because the phrase, the best diet is the one you follow.
Yes.
Is a great, great, great piece of advice. Is because it's the one you follow, meaning it's the one that addresses your needs, which you're touching on.
Yeah.
And does it in a way that's best for you.
Right.
So, Stan Efferding is he was a professional bodybuilder and set world records in powerlifting, and he has a diet called the vertical diet.
Yeah.
And he's been asked in interviews, and they said, should everybody follow the vertical diet? And he said, ideally, there's a lot of stuff in this diet that would work for most people, but really, I would encourage people to follow whatever diet that they can be consistent with, even if it's not mine. And I'm like, that's the type of person you want to listen to. Those are the type of answers you want.
Right.
You're not making it so complicated that you're selling a product. I literally just trying to help you.
Here's a framework.
Yeah, here's a framework to go from.
Yeah.
And that's where I think your answer is great for the listener to hear, is there isn't a best diet that you and I can say to an unknown audience.
Yeah.
So we can't say, here's the best diet with anyone listening.
I can't.
We would have to know who you are and what you're doing and what your goals are and what you've been eating, what are your food restrictions.
Yeah.
So when people are trying to find the best diet, I would encourage them to say, I need something that makes my calories consistent and my number of meals or the timing of my meals per day consistent.
Yeah.
I want to have sufficient protein. There's a little bit of argument to that, but it's a pretty well-established 0.6 grams to 1 gram per pound of body weight.
Yeah.
On our website, www.brittlirongym.com, you can go to the free nutrition education page. On that page, the first document is a Create Your Own Nutrition program. So you can print that, you can read through it, you can do whatever, and it actually tells people the calories they need, the proper range. It tells them the protein they need, the proper range, and methods to regulate timing. It's all for free on our website. Totally for free. So go there. If you don't know what your calories should be, if you don't know what your protein should be, it's on the website. And then, from there, it would be pick any diet structure that allows you to be consistent with calories and timing.
Yeah, sustain
Whatever
it.
foods are that you like that can fit that, great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you have trouble figuring it out, as a little plug, but I'll say it anyhow, is right now I'm doing free 15-minute consultations with people.
Yes.
Because I've been very fortunate, very blessed to have a lot of people to work with, and I wanted to start to get to meet people before I work with them. Because I wanted to see what your goals are, what you're struggling with. I'll tell you what you can do to overcome them. But I wanted people to get to know me. I wanted to get to know them, so that way when I start to work with somebody, it's a nice long-term investment. Mm-hmm. I want to make a change in people's lives. I want to have, like, there's that mile wide, inch deep kind of thing.
Yeah.
I want to be the opposite. I want to make sure that whoever I'm helping, we go as deep as they need. We cover everything they need.
Yeah.
So I want to see what their, like, level of interest or investment are into it. So if anybody listening to this is like, okay, I understand consistent calories, I understand consistent timing, but I really do not know what structure is best for me.
Yeah.
Free 15-minute call. So you can sign up, email brutalirongym@gmail.com, or you can go to the website. We'll go to the one-on-one services page. On there is a link for the sign up for the consultation as well. So anybody that wants that, I'll talk to you for free for 15 minutes. So that way I'll give you at least some kind of idea of what to do.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing would be is to pick a diet that you believe fits you closely, and then just modify it as you go. Mm-hmm. So if you do paleo, but you like rice, then eat the rice.
Yeah.
Keep the rest of the paleo part that you like, but add the rice if you want.
Right, because everyone's going to feel better eating different things too. So
yes. Like you get different blood sugar responses, you get different digestive responses.
Oh, yeah, there's another podcast.
That's a whole other podcast, yeah. Like I've had some clients that eat rice and they feel great. I've had some clients that eat rice and they feel bloated.
Yeah.
So we switch from rice to something else and all of a sudden they feel amazing.
Right. It's wild.
So you can pick a diet structure that you believe is close to you.
Yeah.
And then just modify it as you go. Mm-hmm. So that's another option.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, I think we definitely touched on a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I think that was pretty good.
A little bit. I hope I wasn't too windy.
Oh, no. I think it's... The point of these in-depth ones, as I mentioned when I first introduced the first one, is to dive a little deeper, have a little more of a discussion feel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it's hard. It's hard to talk about all of this in 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Like you
have to pick one narrow component, and that's it. But then it might take me 20-minute podcast to get through everything we just talked to today.
Yeah.
So.
And it's interesting. Like it's I don't know. It's so interesting, and for the same reason, like you said, that everyone feels like they can be an expert on nutrition because everyone interacts with food every day.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that it's equally why it's probably challenging for everybody.
Yes.
So for the same reason someone feels like they're an expert is the same reason most people probably struggle with it.
That's a good point. I like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's part of that challenge is that there's so many answers available.
Yeah.
Everyone says they're right and everyone has like an opinion. So who do you listen to? You know? And I appreciate that people are investing into this podcast. Like if you're listening to
this
now,
thank you.
You've clearly listened to it. Yeah. So I hope that through the podcast people have learned that it can be more simple than what it's made out to be.
Yeah.
And that it can kind of fit you. And that's, I don't know, I just see so many people hurting emotionally and mentally because they try to do something they can't.
Absolutely.
And they feel like a failure.
It's heartbreaking.
And it's like, that wasn't made for you. Like, that wasn't the thing you were supposed to be good at anyhow.
Yeah. It's
yeah. And it's just sad to see that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, I mean, I hear it a lot just in general conversation, right? Mm-hmm. They know, hey, you're kind of fit. What do you do, right? Yeah. Or, you know, it amazes me when people talk about the food you eat when it's healthy, but like I don't comment on people's. I never talk about what somebody's eating.
Well, no, because people do it to us a lot. And I wouldn't even think to do it.
Right. Why would you? That's so personal.
But yeah, well, actually, yesterday I was eating cookies.
Yes.
And I was eating some cookies outside of Publix.
Because your blood sugar, you were like, I'm feeling so sick.
We had to move some gym equipment, and I was behind on food. So it felt like crap. And so we went into Publix. I grabbed some cookies from the bakery, and I was like, "Well, this will be good. It'll give me a couple hundred quick digested calories.
Yeah.
And then I'll cook some food when we get home."
Yeah.
As soon as we walk out, some dude was telling me, "What do you say? Like you're cheating or something? That's cheating."
That's cheating.
Yeah, that's cheating. And this is me being a complete jerk face. So
you didn't respond.
Well,
so
no.
just
But in my
your
mind,
head.
what I'm thinking to myself now is, so feel free for everyone to judge me. You're open season of judgment.
Open season.
So this person, older, extremely overweight.
Yeah, grizzled.
And in one of those like carts.
Yeah.
Like movable portable carts, because he was so overweight he probably couldn't walk very well.
Yeah.
And he was getting on me about nutrition. He's like, "You're cheating," and it's like, have you ever not cheated? Like, how do you know, how do you like? Why would you think this is cheating?
Yeah, it's because it's a cookie that's bad for you.
Yeah, and it's like, you don't know me. You don't know anything I'm doing. Like, I don't look bad. Like, I clearly must know something I'm doing. Yeah. But yet, for that person to automatically think I'm wrong, they're right.
Yeah.
Nothing else in the circumstances would make you question that.
Oh, we were, both of us were just like,
and we just laughed, and then you go, "It's his cheat day," and we just started laughing.
Yeah, I'm like, which it isn't, but I was like, how do you even respond to that?
I don't know. What I loved about that moment was, and again, feel free to judge me, I don't care. I'm gonna say it. When people give advice, they
look
are
who's giving it,
unaware of so many elements.
I know.
So, like, for example, like that guy being obese, telling me that I was right or wrong. And it didn't matter if it was me. If he said it to you, I probably would have like cussed him out, because I can't stand when people say things to you. But anything negative.
Yeah, negative.
Yes.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, they can't say anything
negative. Not that you don't let people talk to me.
Oh, no, yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah, now we're really getting off. But when people give advice, they often mean well, and they're completely oblivious to the fact that, like, of why it might not be right. Mm-hmm. You know, like, we've seen people who are not in any physical condition, like any good shape, give nutrition advice to other people. Yeah,
skinny, fat, fluffy, unhealthy.
What are you doing? Like, why would you?
I'm going to stick to this. I'm going to stick to this diet. Then I'm going to fast, and then I'm going to drink myself silly, full of alcohol, and then, but I know what I'm doing because I'm going to cleanse. Like, it's just.
And it's like, you gotta be, it's just crazy.
I know.
It's crazy that people are so unaware.
I just default to keeping my mouth shut unless someone asks me directly. I keep my mouth shut. How do we answer what?
We're so far off on the topic now, but this is great.
Okay.
Is when somebody asks, like, well, what do you do for nutrition? The first response, for me, is a question back to them. I have never give someone an answer where I haven't asked them a question about themselves first.
Well, that's why...
You're the exact same way.
Yeah, because you said, what's the best diet?
Yeah, and you're like, I don't even know how to answer that.
Yeah,
and
you
in
can't.
my mind, I was like, yes! I didn't prompt you with that question at all.
This is why we're married.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is amazing. This works so perfectly.
Yeah.
When somebody says, like, well, what do you eat? I would never answer that.
No.
I would always go,
biased.
I say, well, what are your goals? Yeah. Like, what are you working on? Because I know what they mean by that question is, what should they eat?
Yeah. I want to look like you. What do I do?
Yeah. And that's, to me, that's a really good sign that you're talking to somebody who probably knows some good stuff.
Yeah.
And you might want to continue that conversation.
Yeah.
Is if you ask them a question and they ask you a question back. So training advice all the time. Like, oh, I want to, get my squat stronger. What should I do? Like, what's the best squat stance? It would be like, well...
What's your body mechanics?
Yeah, what are your body types? Do you lift with Olympic shoes? Do you not? Like, do you lift to be strong? Do you lift it for mobility? Like, there should be questions as, like, I have to gather information before I can give you an answer.
Yeah.
And that's a really good indicator of, like, who should you listen to or what information to follow.
That'd be like walking into...
Are they gathering information from you first?
Wouldn't you want a doctor to do that?
I would hope. Jeez.
So, like, why would you not want a nutritionist to do that?
So take advice that was given to you. Yeah. Meaning, it wasn't, you didn't hear it from like, okay, this person on an interview said to do this. It should be, they asked you questions and they gave you an answer for you based on your question. Mm-hmm. So that's the best advice to listen to, is when somebody actually knows who you are. Correct. They know something about you. Correct. That's the better advice.
Yeah. Not the 20 years of trial and error and mistakes I did.
Well, you can give great advice, like,
true.
In the sense that, like, here's all the things I learned.
Yeah.
You probably should try not to do those things.
Yeah.
You know, if I stick my fork in a light socket, you know, I think that's pretty good enough that I can tell somebody else not to do that. Like, you're probably not going to want to do that.
Yeah, like I said, I don't just spout advice because what's the phrase about, you know, the truly intelligent, like just...
Well, this is great because I don't know. So that's I laugh at the irony of,
like, I don't...
What's the phrase of the truly intelligent? I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Well, yeah. You're cute. Yeah. But it's more of like I know I don't know everything, so I'm not going to act like I do.
Oh, yes. Well, that's the imposter syndrome component, too. It's like, as you learn more about stuff, you then become more aware of what you don't know.
Right.
And you can actually have somebody who's very good at what they do, and they're very shy to give advice because they're like, I am so aware of what I don't know now. Right. So there's
be cautious of the people that
think they know everything,
that are convinced and prophesy about, like,
you should do this, everyone should do this, like everyone needs to blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, those are usually the ones you never would listen to.
It's like, be cautious about that. Be cautious about the folks that are convinced you need to do intermittent fasting, first meal at 2, like, but just, you know, keto and intermittent fasting and this and that. And
well, I remember when I did a podcast about the carnivore diet. Yeah. Somebody got very mad at me because I said that the carnivore diet might not be for everyone. Good. And they believed the carnivore diet was how everyone should eat because it worked very well for them. Yeah. So they gave a description of how much it changed their life, and I'm very happy for them for that part. But they then said that my advice of not advising everyone to do carnivore was wrong, and they said it in a much less nice way of saying that. Of course. But
congratulations, you must also play pickleball. Like,
those are the people that I would definitely be very cautious with. Yeah. Is everyone should do X, Y, Z. Yeah. And it's like, that's probably not a good person to listen to. Yeah. Because very rarely does everyone need to do something that specific. Yes. Now, does everybody need to track calories and timing? Yes, because those are concepts. Yeah. But if somebody's like, you need to do intermittent fasting, or everyone should do
you need to brush your teeth. Blah, blah, blah. You need to, It's like there are some foundational aspects that you do need to do that is non-negotiable. Yeah. So the components of nutrition, non-negotiable. How you apply them. Negotiable. Individual. Yeah, negotiable. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. Yeah. As soon as you just said this is fun, I'm like, okay, we're up. No, I said this was fun. Okay, good. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I hope it was helpful. True. Whoever has listened this long, thank you. Thank you. And I hope there was something for you in here. At this point, we might be just doing it for ourselves. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Yeah, me too. But I hope it helped. Yeah. We'll learn from my mistakes. Yeah. And that's me too. Yeah. Definitely made. And non-mistakes. Yeah. Yeah. Just and the stuff we got right. Food for thought. Wah, wah. Okay. Good job. Thanks for having me, Rob. Yeah. Okay, so we have the free resource on the website, www.brutalirongym.com. You can get a free nutrition education. The first document on that page is Create Your Own Nutrition Program. You can download that document, find out the calories you should have, the protein you should have, and the methods in which you can use to be more consistent with the timing of your meals. That's all for free. Also for free, we have our 15-minute consultations. You can shoot me an email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. You can go to the website, go to the one-on-one services page. On there is a link, so you can go to that page, on that link, or email me at brutalirongym@gmail.com, and we'll sign you up for a free 15-minute virtual consultation. I'd like to meet you via Zoom or whatever else system we need, depending on where you live. And we'll talk about what your goals are, what your struggles are, and what we could do to overcome them. So all of that is available. If you like the podcast, if you do find the podcast helpful, please share it. The more people we share it with, the more people can help. Also, if you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on the website. And if you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. Well, thank you, Meredith. Thank you. Yes. And then thank you to the listeners. So, as always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.